if he's making $1 million a year, which we're talking a lot more money than that already, and we're talking incentives, but let's just do it on a scale, $1 million, you're making $250,000 from winning that game. Now, times that by 5, 6, 7, whatever he's going to be at in a couple of years.
Big news out of Tempe. Kenny Dillingham, head coach for your Arizona State Sun Devils, with an extension. Of course, we already knew that Arizona State was going to extend Kenny Dillingham. That news happened right before the Peach Bowl, but the details of that contract appear to have been released. Let's go ahead. Let's take a closer look at what's in store for Kenny Dillingham. Most notably, Erik, starting with the fact that his salary should be increased to about $5.8 million in 2025. Again, if this contract is approved by the Arizona Board of Regents on Thursday.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense, right? You should pay the guy who has potential to be the greatest coach your school has ever seen.
Yeah.
Has potential to take you to the national championship, to win the whole dang thing. Because that's exactly what he proved this year, is that in year 2, you saw the heights that you could reach if you continue to give him time to build.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be underpaying him by that number in future years, which I think is maybe one of the more interesting parts of the contract that they have addressed.
Yeah, 100%. Again, $5.8 million, it I think clearly shows that this athletic department and obviously the football staff are in unison. They want to keep Kenny Dillingham here in Tempe as long as possible. And as it stands right now, the contract would extend through the team's final game of the 2029 season, or December 31st, 2029. But there are some really, really cool incentives in this contract. And ultimately, that would try and keep Kenny here, again, at ASU as long as possible. Literally, as long as this team goes bowling every year, it looks like Kenny is going to be in Tempe. So a couple different incentives here. If Arizona State reaches 6 regular season wins and gets an invitation to an NCAA bowl game, it's going to trigger a 1-year extension.
Check.
If they get 7 regular season wins, triggers a 1-year extension with an additional increase of $100,000 applicable to the immediately succeeding contract year's annual salary. 8 regular season wins, triggers a 1-year extension with an additional increase of $200,000. 9 regular season wins, triggers a 1-year extension with an increase of $250,000. 10 regular season wins, triggers a 1-year extension with an increase of $350,000. And 11 regular season wins, triggers a 1-year extension with an increase of $450,000.
So if he wins continually the next 2-3 years, that's already going to start being added onto the end of his contract.
Correct.
Like, you're going to get to the point that unless you, again, don't go bowling for a lot of years in a row, that you'd even have the question about an extension.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And I don't know, and we don't know the full details about like what this means going forward. Like, I'm sure he can probably negotiate a new contract if those raises he wants to see maybe jump up in price going forward, depending if it's like, hey, we've been getting like 9 wins every season.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's start talking bigger chunks of money. I do find it interesting, and I kind of want to ask a stupid question.
Okay.
It's not really a question that I'm like worried about. What if he wants to leave, right? Like, if he's winning, you know, and getting yearly extensions and you're 10, 15 years in and he still has 6 years left on his contract,
Yeah.
right? I wonder what the conversation is like then. I'm not really curious about it because I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Mhm.
But like, theoretically, that's an interesting hypothetical with like this specific set of rules.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I'm sure, again, given this contract and given the conversations between Kenny and his agent and the athletic department, again, this goes back to what I was saying, right? It's in unison. So I think if there were a situation where Kenny was 15, 20 years down the line and, you know, it felt like it was, you know, he accomplished everything that he could accomplish here, then I think that would be obviously a conversation that would need to happen. But
I think we hold him ransom.
I think ultimately, again,
You can't leave, coach.
This type of contract shows you that that's not the case. It shows
Oh,
you
yeah, for sure.
that
Like, that's
he
a
wants
stupid
to
question.
be here
Yeah.
as long as possible. And some other really, really big incentives. Again, this is an incentive-heavy contract for Kenny Dillingham. So the current contract provides for coach to be eligible to receive the following postseason performance bonuses. They're one-time payments for the highest achievement each season, right? So a non-major bowl game appearance gets $50,000, just pretty much for nothing.
No money at all.
A non-major bowl game win, he would get 1 month of his annual salary.
Is the only major bowl games considered a New Year's bowl?
A non-major bowl game, would be
like even like the Alamo Bowl, which is
would be like
the
Las
pseudo
Vegas
Big
Bowl,
12 championship,
like the
right?
Cheez-It Bowl, like
those are non-major bowls.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
It's like,
just
are you talking about like the
just an
like
appearance,
like the lawnmower bowl and like the middle?
I'm talking about the
right,
the
but like
bowl.
there's a scale, right?
There is,
so
but that's what it's saying.
I wonder what that delineate. I don't know if that's clearly stated in there. But like I
let
wonder
me
what
get
that
to part 2
delineation
for you.
is.
Right. So just to go to a bowl game that doesn't really mean anything is $50,000. Right?
He'd probably be so mad. He'd be so mad if he went to a bowl game that meant nothing and like lost.
Absolutely.
And got $50K. He would immediately just give it to his coaches.
Now, a non-major bowl game win, he gets a month of his annual salary in a bonus. Okay, so think of these all as bonuses.
And also if he continues to get raises, then that number goes up too.
He can make a ton of money.
Dude, so much money.
So an appearance in a major bowl game, the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Peach Bowl, or Fiesta Bowl, he gets 15% of his annual salary in a one-time payment. Now, if he wins one of those bowl games, that jumps up to a 25% payment of his annual salary.
That's 200. Like, if again, just for context, if he's making $1 million a year, which we're talking a lot more money than that already, and we're talking incentives, but let's just do it on a scale $1 million. You're making $250,000 from winning that game. Now times that by 5, 6, 7, whatever he's going to be at in a couple of years. You're making, I think stupid is the right word. And again,
you can only get
in a complimentary.
You only get the highest achievement per season here, right?
Yeah.
So
you don't get like add-ons.
No. So appearing in one of those bowl games while also appearing in the college football playoff, right? Appearing in the college football playoff is a 30% one-time payment of your annual salary versus some of those other bowl games. If you win college football playoff quarterfinal game, is a 35% of your annual salary. If you win the semifinal game, 40% of your annual salary. And if you win the college football playoff championship game, you get 50% of your annual salary.
Dude, that's so hard. Payment. That's and you know what's crazy? The craziest part about all of it is that you see a world where all of that can happen.
Yeah.
Like you're not right. You know, sometimes people put in their contracts like incentives that just clearly aren't going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, this is completely different. You listed off all of those things. He got to like the third to last one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this year.
It's wild. And so look, I want to, again, they have these like separated out now, right? Like in terms of part of the contract has the percentages, the other half tells you exactly what these numbers are. And actually it looks like some of these numbers were amended from that original contract, right? So your appearance in a college football playoff, Kenny's getting $2 million if he makes it to the CFP. If he wins the CFP quarterfinal game, he gets $2.5 million. Okay. If he wins the semifinal game, he gets $3 million.
What do we get for covering those games?
Nothing.
And at least 0.1 of the million?
If he wins the college football playoff championship, he gets an additional $4 million. So those previous salaries, right, the payments that we had discussed previously, it appears like those were amended to be what these are now, much, much higher. The initial non-college football playoff bowl game appearance is still $50,000. The non-college football playoff bowl game win is still a month of the annual salary. But appearing in the college football playoff and some of these other things are now worth a significant amount of money.
You know, not that ASU really had a choice, because if you didn't lock this guy up in a contract like this where you could potentially have him for as long as he's good, which could be for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Literally. Not that they really had a choice but to do that, or else the streets would riot.
Yeah,
but like good on them for ponying up, right? Everything we've talked about, these massive bonuses, these millions of dollars, completely on the table. There's definitely a world where Kenny's going to be making that. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. Obviously, it's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And even winning a quarterfinal game, you got to get there, let alone to win another game, let alone to win another game, right? Let alone getting there again. But for a school that's been ripped apart for not having a proper commitment to athletics, what we've seen with their NIL, I mean, you're retaining Sam Levitt, right? You're retaining Jordan Tyson. You are going out and getting 5 stars and 4 stars and SEC transfers. Like, this athletic department is clearly making a financial investment that I think 2-3 years ago would not have been made. And you have to give a lot of credit to Graham, to Michael Crow, to every other person who doesn't share the same outward facing, influence on all of that. Because think about what you have right now in Kenny Dillingham, and now think about the fact that every time he has a good season, his contract is going to get extended.
Yeah.
Right? And how much money can be on the line if they continue to win.
Yeah.
And how this will probably not even be his contract in the next 5 years. It'll probably be ripped up and he'll sign a new one for even more money. There was a time where Arizona State fans probably would not be confident that their school would be doing that for a coach like this.
Yeah, no, this is crazy.
This is commitment.
Crazy.
This is what powerhouses do.
Yeah.
This is what teams that are going to be perennial contenders, maybe not in the sense of always for a natty, but always good. There are always those schools that are just, dang, even if they're having a down year, they're like 24, 23, right?
Yeah.
This is what those schools do with their guys.
Not even, though. I've never seen a contract
I meant more of like financially invest, not specifically this contract, but like financially invest in it to this level is I don't say astronomical. Like I'm not trying to like be hyperbolic, but like
this is remarkable.
This is security, peace of mind for fans, for Kenny. He got his staff locked up. You have players returning. You have a culture that insists on players returning. You are really setting yourself up to not have to worry about the external factors that come with modern college football and that come with modern athletics, period. It's a nice world to live in for all parties involved, university, coach, and fans, and players.
Absolutely. Again, just a quick recap of some of the changes in this new contract agreement. Again, if Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham go from 6 wins, anywhere from 6 to 11 wins a season, it automatically triggers a 1-year extension on top of bonuses that range anywhere from $100,000 to $450,000. Again, depending on where this team goes in the postseason, whether that be a non-college football playoff or a non-college football playoff bowl game appearance, that is $50,000, ranges all the way to if Arizona State wins the college football playoff national championship, Kenny would be getting $4 million. On top of the fact that, again, they are raising his salary to about $5.8 million in 2025. This is all in agreement. Does have to get approved in a special Arizona Board of Regents session.
A-Board, get it together.
On Thursday, January 16th. Guys, hit
Don't
that
let
like
us
button,
down.
hit the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments what you think of this deal between Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Sun Devils.